Okay, so before we hopped on, I pulled you some oracle cards, and we're not going to go over them in the session, but I will send you their pictures and their guidebook descriptions afterwards. And then I asked each one of your chakras what kind of crystals would help with healing, and I built you a crystal grid, and so I'll send you a picture of that as well. And then I will get the replay to you today or tomorrow. Is that okay?
Yes, wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so for notes here, I see that we have soul purpose, personal strengths, and limiting beliefs. That's what we wanted to discuss. Is that right?
Yes, that sounds
Okay. Do
great.
you have any specific questions in mind, or did you just want to see what comes through in all of those areas?
I think what comes through, really.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll
Yeah.
hop on into it then with what the higher self had for you. Okay. So when I went into your energy field, I saw a giraffe, and giraffes in shamanism are representative of reaching for higher knowledge and wisdom, and then also bringing that down and imparting it to others in the collective. They are able to see out into the savannah a lot further than other animals because they're so high up. So if there are, let's say, potential threats out there, they're able to let everyone know. Okay. So how we can interpret that is not necessarily with the potential threats, but hey, I can see things that are coming through in the future for the collective a little bit more out than most people can. So that could be representative of a lot of things. Like, have you ever seen those videos of collective energy readers?
I don't think so.
So what they do is they tap into, let's call it the psychic grid, where all of the light workers are connected with one another, and they're reading what energies are about to roll in.
Oh, okay. I take that back. Yes, I
Okay.
have.
Okay. So
Okay.
that is a potential course that you could go down if you wanted
Okay.
to. Okay. Or
Okay.
just you being very oh my gosh, my words, tapped in to the higher realms, and you can kind of pre-predict where the collective is headed with consciousness. And so you can talk about esoteric concepts that are very high level and break it down for the people. Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So, what are you doing so far in those areas, or with your energy healing abilities, your gifts, imparting things to other people?
Um, I guess like I'm still very much in like the healing phase, but as far as like imparting things to other people, I guess I'm just kind of trying to help my family, like
Yes.
see and heal and share the little tidbits of knowledge, plant the seeds.
Yes. Okay. So, how is that being received by your family? Is this like your internal family, like the
Yeah.
persons whom you live with, or is this a kind of like extended
Mhm.
family as well?
My husband and children mainly, and then close friends as well.
Yes. Okay.
And I
How is
think
that
it's
being?
being received pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for the most part.
So when you think about extending that knowledge outside of the family, how do we feel about that?
I still have a pretty big fear of being seen.
Hmm.
I'm definitely working through that slowly but surely.
Okay.
I guess like doing this is kind of a big step for me in releasing that fear and kind of moving past it. Um, yeah, but I love helping people.
Hmm.
I've always, like, ever since I was little, I knew that whatever I did when I grew up was
Hmm.
going to be something to help people. I just never really knew what.
What do you think that you would want to be helping people with?
Healing,
Hypothetically.
healing.
Okay, healing. Okay, what do you think that that would look like? Like healing in what kind of circumstances?
Mm,
Because there's healing with a lot. We can heal with a lot of different
right,
things.
right, right, right. I
Yes.
guess like a lot of people tend to come to me with emotional trauma.
Hmm.
So, I feel like I can provide like safe space
Hmm.
in that, and I'm generally able to give like good advice or to tell people like what they need to hear in order to kind of switch their perspective a little bit
Hmm.
into more of the positive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, yeah.
How does that make you feel when you are helping people with emotion specifically, like emotional trauma?
Um, I mean, it can make me feel really heavy because I'm super empathetic. Um, but at the same point, it's like it feels really good. It feels
Oh
good
yeah.
to help. Like I receive a great amount of joy in knowing if I had like a positive influence on somebody else.
Yeah, help them into like the next chapter of their journey or help them like
Yeah.
release things. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it can make us feel heavy though.
Yeah.
Onboarding people's emotions. Okay. Uh, so let's say that you were helping somebody with their emotional processing, going through some heavy things. What is the end goal, the outcome that you want them to receive?
Mm, I guess a sense of peace on forward movement. Like, um, hmm, it's an interesting question. Right? Like, I don't know. Like the feeling of peace, like
Hmm.
knowing that even though things are difficult in this moment, like it's going to be okay and not
Hmm.
everything is easy. And through the most difficult situations, sometimes comes the most beautiful growth.
I love that. The reason I asked that is because part of your soul mission was coming up here, and so I'm doing a barometer check to see where we're at with
Right?
that. So
Gotcha, gotcha.
we're gonna elevate that at the end there.
Okay.
So okay, so right now we'll put helping people find peace is what our filter lens has been, because when we are not only working with other people, but working for ourselves, working with ourselves. The way that we heal self and grow and evolve depends on what perspective lens that we're looking through.
Okay.
So if we're looking to, let's just say for the example, not what you're doing, but just alleviate pain
Hmm.
or what's your higher self saying? Pain or like emotional distress. But then we're not having something kind of on the other side of it. It's kind of just leaving yourself and that other person like kind of in this like homeostasis, not homeostasis, but this like holding space of like, okay, well, what would I do next?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
So peace is a really good one. But there's something that goes even farther beyond that that's tied with your soul mission, which we're going to talk about. So that might be
Okay.
the missing link that you have been searching for.
Aha. Oh,
Okay.
okay.
But we got to go through some other things before we get to that. Okay.
Okay.
So when I went deeper into your field, I saw that you were on a boat and it was like a fishing boat and you had a fishing spear in your hand and you were throwing it out. And I started talking to him and I was like, hey, what's going on? What are you doing? But I was actually looking at a memory and this is going to be a little bit intense. Okay,
Mhm.
so he's a fisherman, and one day he was out on sea and he was messing with the rigging lines, and they ended up wrapping around his neck, and he ended up passing away, and he was on the boat by himself. This is a different incarnation of yours. So then,
Okay.
fast forward, I'm talking to him after he has already passed on and I asked his soul to come forward so I could talk to him about, okay, what does this have to do with Heidi? Okay. And we're sitting there together and he said, I wish that I wouldn't have spent my whole life taking lives. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, because he was a fisherman. So he felt like he was always taking from the fish or whatever that he crabs, whatever he was fishing, right? And he was kind of looking back at his life and he said, I wish I would have created more life around me. And I said, okay, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, I didn't really have a family and I was just constantly on the boat by myself fishing. And he said, and when he said, I wish I was giving more life, I said, well, don't you think that you were giving life by helping feed so many people? Like you're feeding all these families in this kind of city village that he was fishing for. And he was like, oh, I never really thought of it like that. I was like, yes. He was at the end after he passed filled with a lot of regrets of what he wished he would have done. And when we have different incarnations like this come forward with these specific karmic lessons, it's usually a mirror reflection of something that we have going on in ours, and they're coming forward to help us heal. So your higher self wanted me to ask you, what are we doing as far as regrets in our life or feeling that way?
Interesting. So regrets, like, man,
And it might not even be anything specific. It could
right,
just be like an overall, sometimes that's like an overlooming feeling, even though we could be
right.
very like happy in life, like with husband and kids, in the energy healing, doing all the things. But sometimes there's these cords that are running of we have not fulfilled what we want to fulfill, or maybe we feel like we're not going to be able to fulfill what we want to fulfill. So sometimes it's not even
Sure.
backwards regrets, sometimes it's future regrets.
Right. I mean,
So,
I guess there definitely is a sense of that, like kind of lack of purpose.
mm,
Um, like what am I gonna do with my life? What direction am I gonna go in? Like I don't have a real career or anything like that in my life. And I think when I was younger, I saw myself like doing so much. And there's a sense of like that being unfulfilled for sure.
yeah, and that might be why he's coming forward to do, like, sometimes they come forward to say like, "Hey, let's do a check-in where we're at right now so you don't end up like
Right.
this." Okay?
Right.
And not
Yeah.
saying that you will end up like that. Okay?
Right.
This is just a reflection from higher self, okay? So, what is it that when you were little you saw yourself doing that you haven't felt fulfilled in?
Oh gosh, I don't know exactly, but it's like that like I said, like the always having a sense of wanting to help people. Like
Mhm.
even when I was little, like I loved helping people and animals and I always was nurturing something. And I just felt like I think I've always just felt like there's so much more purpose
Mhm.
and just been lost on what that is. And then as I got older and I started going to college, it was like I was going to be a psychologist. And then I thought I was going to be a nurse. And like life changed.
Mhm.
Maybe those weren't really in alignment, but it was I- like I've always just wanted to help and do something where it's, uh, I can be financially successful doing something that I love and helping people and feeling like emotionally gratified through that as well. Um, yeah, like the quote unquote job,
Yes.
right?
We want our passion to also be our career and be
Right,
happy within that. Yes. Okay.
right.
So, what I'm hearing when you speak is okay, the one of the reasons that we are feeling a little unfulfilled in that area is because of the fear of being seen,
Hmm.
which is something that we just got to continuously work on. Right?
Right.
There's no shortcuts to that. That is just putting ourselves out there continuously. But when I listen to you speak, I can hear your energy body, and she's saying, "I know how powerful I am. I know what I'm capable of, but I'm scared." Okay. Okay.
Right.
But right, but at the same time, let me see what your higher self is saying, because she's trying to chime in here. Okay. So before we get into that, where do we think that the fears of being seen are coming from?
Mhm. Childhood. Um, I never felt good enough. I never felt seen as a kid. Anytime I did anything good, there was a lack of praise. There was a lack of, yeah, like I never felt good enough. My my mom specifically. It was like if I did something that I felt proud of, instead of telling me good job, she overly critiqued it, tried to correct the flaws. Um,
Mm, okay.
so I don't feel like I really got positive feedback,
Yes. Okay. I just
and
figured
that
out.
feels icky.
I understand that. I'm writing some notes down because I just figured out why your energy body was telling me something earlier. I was like, oh, okay, that's it right there. Okay. I'm gonna put helping people here. Okay. So we have this internal drive of always needing to prove ourselves or become more of an expert, or just be more intentional, be more self-aware. Like, it's kind of this hamster wheel that we can get on. It's
Right.
like this catch-22, because it's like, oh, I want to help people, but I'm not quite there yet in order to do that, right? Because of the fear of being seen and not being praised for our gifts and our talents and our abilities. um so your higher self wants me to ask you, do you not feel like that you're helping people now?
I mean, I am, I guess. Yeah.
Well, okay, she said, why do you say I guess? Your higher self is very
Right.
direct, and I'm
It's the
like watering
desire.
down. I'm watering down
Right.
her.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Sounds about right.
Yes.
She's um because I guess the desire for more, really.
What does that mean?
Um, being seen.
Okay, that does mean being seen. That does mean
Hmm.
being seen. I think that you want to, because we love the husband, we love the kids, but we also want to be seen for our gifts and our talents and abilities and what we're able to actually do, and
Hmm.
then be praised. But not that we need external validation, but it is nice sometimes and say,
Right.
like, right, and be praised for our gifts and our talents and abilities. But at the same time, scared to put them out there, because what if it's not good enough?
Right.
Right? Okay. Your higher self is also saying, like, hey, we really need to get to a place where we understand that we're helping people every single day exactly where we're at, and we're already using our beautiful gifts and talents and abilities. There's I don't even like to call them blockages, but there's like some growth moments there of, there's facets of you of saying, like, what I'm doing right now is not good enough
Hmm.
for husband, kids, family, whatever,
Hmm.
right? Because you're like, I can't utilize my gifts and talents at their full ability because maybe they're not as deep into their ascension journeys as some other people. Okay. But
Right.
that's fine. Okay. But that doesn't negate from you being able to use your gifts in full totality. So we need to probably ask ourselves, do I fear being seen by my husband and my kids as well?
Mhm.
Because that's probably in there a little bit too.
Yeah. My youngest kids, no. My son, who's older, yes.
Mhm.
And my husband, yes, I do.
Yes. And so sometimes it's easier to be more open with strangers than it is
Right.
for family members that have a bias, right? And so if that's the case, and we really want to flex our spiritual abilities, that means that we're going to have to step outside of the family to find those fulfillments, or we're going to have to do that internally with our family and step out even more woo.
Hmm.
One or the other has to happen to
Right.
make progress, is what your higher self is saying.
Right.
And
Right.
not saying you're not doing that, because she is saying that you're doing work. We're working on it. But is it at the rate that we probably could? Probably not.
Hmm.
Right. Okay. So what are we doing with inner child healing?
Um, I mean, I guess I don't know specifically. I kind of am focusing a little bit more on doing stuff for myself
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
things that brought me joy when I was a kid. Like my horse, I took her to a trainer and we're like doing lessons a couple times a week.
Awesome.
So yeah, I find a lot of joy in that.
Good.
And it was something I loved when I was a kid. Um, there could definitely be more, and I guess I don't really know where to start with that, other than trying to find the play and the fun.
Yeah, that's a great place to start. That's where we want to start with our inner children. Like, and no inner child wants you to just be in there talking about trauma. all the
Mhm.
time. Okay, that's not
Right.
fun. Okay.
No.
So that's beautiful. What I would do when you start having those fears of being seen come up, that would be a beautiful time to do some diving within and asking, hey, who in here is feeling this way?
Mhm.
How old are you? Why are you feeling this way? Just like questions.
Right.
Just creating safety, not even digging through it. Like, we don't even have to dig through it right now. Just getting them to the awareness that you see them, that you care about how they're feeling, that you are aware that it's coming from them, and that you're here to listen.
Right.
That's really all you have to start, because they will start
Like
telling
the
you.
acknowledgement.
Just
Right.
acknowledging. Yeah, because you weren't acknowledged. So the
Mhm.
only way to heal that is to acknowledge. Right.
Right.
And this is kind of me talking over them too of, hey, that stuff is going to be kind of scary to look at because it's also rooted in abandonment wounds.
Mhm.
Okay. That's not what we're doing. Heidi's just coming in and saying, hey, I see you. I know you're upset.
Mhm.
I know it's scary being seen, especially when that didn't happen to us when we were a child, or maybe we were chastised for that, or, lots of different things. I just want you to know that I'm here and I care and I love you and I'm open to talk about these things whenever you want to talk. Do you want to talk about it right now?
Right.
And if they don't have anything to talk about, okay. But then sometimes they are going to want to.
Mhm.
And that's when you can come in as that parent figure, just like you would with your kids. Treat them just like you would your kids. Okay. And just say, okay, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to discuss? How can I help you feel safe?
Right.
How can I help you feel validated? What do you need from me? Because that's where the split off is starting to happen. There's Heidi that's like, okay, I got to get this ball rolling. Right.
Right.
Like, I really want to jump in this, but we've got these scared inner kids inside of like, I don't know how to do that. And so instead of pressuring them of like, I think, yeah, we got to figure this out. Right. Let's just have some conversations. Let's just break the ice. Let's just see kind of what's going on here to begin with. And then we can worry about that stuff later. Not worry about it. We can get into that stuff later.
Right.
Okay. What comes up when I say that? Or how do you feel when I say that?
Um, well, first of all, I figured that's probably where a lot of my blank space will come back because I have huge gaps of memory from when I was a
Hmm.
kid. Um,
Oh, they're probably
just
hiding because they're afraid of being seen.
I have like years that I just don't remember. Um, but then it's like sometimes I feel like I can have that conversation almost without having the conversation. It's like
Hmm.
without words. It's, I feel it.
Hmm.
And I can feel like a little bit more connected. And then sometimes I don't feel like I can even connect with the little inner me. Um, I don't know how to explain it really. It's like my brain gets kind of scattery. Maybe the overthinking process.
It could be emotions. It could be adrenaline coming up. It could be unprocessed stuff like the central nervous system being activated. That can all make you like foggy, like all of a
Sure.
sudden when all this stuff is coming up.
Hmm.
So when I was first starting to do inner child healing, I had a really difficult time hearing them and was having a lot of the similar experiences. And so instead of trying to connect with one inner child, I would say, who is the inner child that needs to talk to me right now? And then
Okay.
different ages would want to come forward, like me at 11 or me at 8 or me at 5, because not all of them have the same things going on and not all of them are ready
Right.
to talk. There's a lot of different layers and different ages and different consciousness. Next time
Hmm.
you go to do that or you feel it coming up, I would ask, hey, how old are you?
Okay.
Do you want to go by Heidi or do you want to go by a nickname? Sometimes they like to do that to differentiate themselves from one another.
Okay.
Okay. Sometimes it'll be something random like Coco or Princess. It can be like really
I mean,
random
right.
what
It's
comes
something
through.
that wasn't even necessarily your nickname. Okay.
Yes. But sometimes what an 11-year-old has experienced is different than an 8-year-old with the same exact wound.
Hmm.
Different reasons for the fear of being seen. if you can kind of separate those experiences from one another and tackle them kind of one at a time, it
Right.
makes it a lot of an easier of a process. And what ends up happening is, let's say you help this 11-year-old over here, it naturally helps this 8-year-old over here too.
Hmm.
We're taking it one experience at a time instead of a whole fear of being seen trauma wound. How about we just look at this one very specific point and just work on that right now?
Right.
Okay, and
Not
that's it.
so
And it has a
consuming.
ripple effect. Yeah, it has a ripple effect out into the other trauma points that may have happened with the fear of being seen. So when I first started, I was like, hey, why don't y'all just show me one memory that's attached to this trauma wound and we'll just work there. And we'll
Mhm.
talk about that when you're ready to talk about it. That's it. Because whatever memory comes up, that inner child is ready to talk about it. Otherwise, it wouldn't have shown you.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
Okay. Okay. Just start there. Okay. We're
Mhm.
going to hop back into talking to this gentleman of the sea
Mhm.
and we'll get deeper into it. Okay. So when I was talking to him, I was asking if there was anything that he could help you with in this incarnation. And he said, sailing the stormy seas, which to him that meant the challenges of life. And I was like, I don't think that's what Heidi needs. I said, I don't think that she wants to be sailing any more stormy seas. And sometimes when you're looking for those, you will find them. And he was like,
Mhm.
good point. Okay. Um,
Right.
so I said, I think what Heidi needs right now is a guide, which he will serve as your guide if you want him to. He is very knowledgeable and wise and grounded, a very good representator of healthy masculine energy. Okay, very grounded. And I said, I think Heidi needs somebody to watch out over her, like a healthy masculine figure.
Mhm.
Do you feel like you had that when you were growing up?
No,
Okay, that's probably
not
what
at
he
all.
was coming for. That he has very, even though he didn't really have a family himself, which I think he's why he's coming through. Even though he passed on to the other side, what he was telling me was, I would love to be Heidi's guide because I didn't get to have that family in my incarnation, and I want to kind of watch over her like a daughter. And I was like, that is so sweet.
No.
I know, right?
Here comes those abandonment issues in
I
my
know.
life because I didn't really have a dad.
I know. He was very, very
Oh, hold
sweet.
on. I accidentally turned my earbud off.
Oh, you're
Ah!
fine. You're fine.
Let me figure out how to reconnect it. Sorry, I don't know
No, no,
what
no,
I'm
you're
doing.
fine. Can you hear me?
Not yet. Try again.
Can you hear me now?
Nope.
Okay.
1 second.
Oh, you're fine.
Connected for calls and audio. It says it should be connected. They're back on. How weird. Ah, that should have done it.
Can you hear me?
Yay.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't touch my head.
Okay. I do that all the time with my earphones. He, again, even though he did not necessarily have a family of his own, he had a lot of like fatherly, grandfatherly type of energy. When I was sitting there listening to him, he had a lot of stories to tell, like, again, just very grounded, a lot of knowledge and wisdom that he accumulated. And he was a kind of like father grandfather figure to this village that he was taking care of, as like this fisherman. But he said that he wants to help watch over you and help guide you in life. And so, you have autonomy over your energy body and your field. So if you want him to be a guide, he would love to do that, but you also don't have to do that.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes.
All
Okay.
right.
Okay.
I love it. Did it say what his name was?
He did not tell me what his name is, but I will tap in just a minute after I tell you about this other incarnation as well, and I will ask him.
Thank you.
Okay, hold on. He's trying to tell me right now. Hold on. Hold on. Let me ask him. He's at Waldorf.
Waldorf.
I haven't heard that name in forever. He said his name is Waldorf.
I love it.
Okay. I'm asking if that's his last name, and he said, no, it's my name. I said, okay, Waldorf. Okay. When I went into a different section of your field, I was in China, and there was this festival that was going on, and there was all these dancers everywhere, and they had all these ribbons. And I don't know if you've ever seen those. They're kind of like kites, but not like kites. They're like paper dragons that kind of like fly through the air. Okay, so I was in the middle of this festival, and I look over, and this woman looked at me, and she asked me to come speak to her, and she's a different incarnation of you. And she is a Chinese acrobat dancer. And she would travel around into these festivals, and she was just this very like free spirit, just very flowy type of energy. And she was coming forward because she said that you need more of that in your life. We need more free expression. Okay. And to me, you have probably been in your masculine energy a lot in life because of, the way you grew up. And, most of us have been that way, honestly. She said that you need some more healing in your heart chakra, which we had talked about previously, right? Okay. So what she was showing me, oh, and the reason that both of them are coming forward is because your higher self said that you're working on finding a balance between groundedness and free flow between your masculine and your feminine energies. We're trying to find like a good homeostasis right now. So Waldorf is a good representative of the masculine energy, and I will ask her name in just a second. She wants to come forward to help you embody more of the feminine aspects of self. Are you a dancer?
I am not. I am very uncoordinated.
Okay. Okay. You can also ask her to help you in that area if you want to. You can channel, you can channel energies from these different incarnations to help you with specific things. You can ask her.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So when she showed me your heart chakra, at first I saw a heart and it had chains in it that were chained to a wall. And I was like, oh, okay. And then it morphed into, okay, I want you to envision that we have like somebody's like human body here, and their heart chakra would be like sitting here, like, here inside of their body. Yours was like far back here, like far back into your energy body. And then it turned into a lake that was sitting like deep within this kind of like, not like a hole, but like kind of like a recess. And there was all these bushes that were everywhere that were like way higher than the lake itself. And so what that was telling me was sometimes that you have a difficult time like accessing your heart chakra, probably just because of abandonment wounds and, all those things from childhood. What I saw you with your energy body, you were trying to reach in through your chest to dip your hand into the lake, but it's almost like it was almost out of your reach at all times. And so kind of like what we talked about before of just feeling like there was like this real heaviness or just this release that wasn't able to happen. So I asked your energy body to come forward to have a conversation with me. And she was just very reluctant to talk to me about it. And I said, you don't have to talk to me about it. I said, we don't have to. I was like, I appreciate you showing me the imagery and kind of what's going on, but me and Heidi can talk about it, once we connect. I said, but I'm not going to force you to talk about it. And as soon as I said that, she was like, okay, now I'm ready to talk about it. She did not want to be forced into talking about anything. So once I gave her permission to do that, she was more open. So I'm going to read what she told me. So she said, I'm only allowed to experience joy, ... And she again kind of got hesitant. And I said, girl, you tell me whatever you want to tell me. Okay, it's fine. And she was like, okay. She said, I'm only allowed to experience joy when I am completely free. I want to experience joy on my own terms. And I said, well, what does that mean? And she said, I feel like I'm always funneling my joy through the lenses of other people's perspectives. Okay. So what that means to me is that we are always either looking to make other people happy, or we are shortchanging our own joy to fit the mold of what other people are wanting to do, whether that's activities or we're just always thinking about other people.
Mhm.
And then kind of, even though that does bring you joy, that's the thing. Okay. It does bring you joy to make other people happy, but it's almost like you are not able to always do the things that like Heidi wants to do, because not everybody else wants to do the things that Heidi wants to do. And when you're a partner and you have kids, it's like, okay, well, I have other people that I need to, think about.
Mhm.
But she was saying, I just feel like my joy is always tied to other people. And that's also representative of kind of what your soul mission was coming forward to, of I don't feel fulfilled because I'm not helping more people.
Interesting. All
Okay.
right.
Okay. So what comes up when you hear that?
Um, well, like I just started thinking about the fact like I just recently started kind of finding myself again.
Mhm.
So it's a big journey. I don't, well, I say again, where I'm like, I don't know that I really ever had a hold of who I was. But it's starting to do things that I enjoy and that
Mhm.
I love. Like I started getting back into art, back into riding horses and trying to find that like joy um, in doing things that I like
Mhm.
without seeking the approval of everybody around me because I have done that for my entire life,
Mhm.
really. And especially like after becoming a mom,
Yeah.
um, that perspective kind of change and like kind of almost overthinking or taking it to the extreme of I have to do what I have to do as a parent and then never allowing myself the space to do what um, made me happy. I took
Yes.
it into the extreme of like, make sure kids are okay and they're taken care of and they're happy. And I know that a lot of that stemmed from the fact of like me not feeling like I was really seen or happy when I was a kid.
Mhm.
So I took it and I exploded it as an adult and as a parent.
Yeah, you
So
probably want to make sure your kids are not experiencing that. So it's like, let me put my 100% into making sure y'all all right. Okay, at the expense of myself, however.
right, right,
Okay. So your higher self one with the kids is saying like, hey, your kids are not you.
right.
Your kids do not have the experience that mom did. They're good.
Mhm.
Okay.
You're
Like,
right,
they're okay. Okay. Which I think you're starting to realize now, like, oh, maybe I don't need to do it to that level, right?
right,
I'm not my
right. And
parents. Yes. Okay. And so now it's like, okay, well, now I can breathe now that I know they're all right. So let me go ahead and start focusing on me again. Okay. I
right.
think that you spent a lot of time pretending that things brought you joy. Even though they
Mhm.
probably did to some extent, but it's probably not like actually what you wanted to be doing.
Right.
Yes, or you probably would have enjoyed it more, those different things, if you have carved out these times for yourself over here and getting your
Uh-huh.
fulfillment. Okay. So when I was speaking to her further, have you ever seen like Gollum from The Lord of the Rings, where he's like, my precious?
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
not that she looked like Gollum, but
Oh, right.
she was holding something in her hand, and I was like, "What are you holding?" And she said, "Joy," like her joy. Okay,
Mhm.
and I was like, "Okay, why are you hoarding that? What is happening?" And she said, "What if I can't have joy with just myself?" Because she has been doing this for so long. And again, this is probably representative of older versions of Heidi that are kind of like making their way out, because you are starting to realize like, oh yeah, I really do need to take care of myself and find things, right?
Mhm.
Um so sometimes these are not always representative of us in the instant. It's more so like, hey, these are the things that are headed out, okay? But she said, I have been hinging my joy on so many other people and looking through their perspectives. Oh my, speaking of perspectives, my camera. Oh my gosh, hold on. Okay. I have been hinging my joy on other people's perspectives. Like, what if there is nothing that brings me joy? And I was like, okay. Okay. And then she said, once I experience that full totality of freedom that joy can bring me, what if it starts consuming me? And then I start putting other people's needs and desires on the back burner. So she was like, don't let me get a taste of it, because if I do that, then I'm going to be off to the races and I'm going to become like this selfish person and I'm going to just only be
Right.
focusing on me. I was like, why do you think that? Okay. So then I asked her, why do you feel like you have to sacrifice for joy? So that's a question for you. Why do you feel like you have to
Right.
sacrifice yourself or your joy for other people or even yourself? Like, because the energy that she was giving me was, I'm constricting my own joy because I'm afraid that one, it'll either become all consuming, or once I find that joy, it's not actually going to be fulfilling.
Right.
There's
I
just so
feel
many,
like
there's a
there's
lot of fears around joy.
yeah. I feel like there's a sense of like if I do something that makes me immensely joyful
Mhm.
and I feel really happy, if people around me aren't as happy, like not like I'm rubbing their face in it or like it's not fair, it's not balanced. That's just the first thing
Mhm.
that came up.
Yes. Okay. So sometimes light workers and empaths, this is a different example, but light workers and empaths sometimes are trauma bonding with persons because they know what it feels like to not feel seen, heard, and validated when they were younger. And so I use this analogy of like there's a pit and somebody's in the pit, okay, and you're up here on the ledge. You've already found your peace and your joy and happiness and abundance and all creativity and joy. Is it more beneficial for you to go get in the pit with them, or for you to stay up here on the side and then hold your hand out and pull them up to where you're at?
Right.
Right? Okay. So that's kind of what's happening here, I think, is I know I can get myself to these levels of joy, but like you said, if other people around me aren't experiencing that, then I start to feel guilty and I start to feel
Hmm.
shameful. And that probably ties into your fear of being seen too, because when you're in your joy, you're being seen by others.
Right. Right.
Everybody's looking at you. Everybody's perceiving you when you're in your joy, and that might make you
Right.
retract back into yourself of like, no, no,
Right.
no, yeah, no, no. Okay. So where do you think that is coming from?
Um,
That feeling like you have
well,
to retract your joy if other people are not in that same
yeah.
space.
Definitely like childhood as well. It was the relationship with my mom. I mean, she was super depressed and unpredictable at times.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if I had to revert into caretaker mode a lot. Um,
Yes.
and then even now, like just different relationships, different things. It was like if I was joyful and the other person wasn't, I was like, well, what's wrong with you? Like what
Mm-hmm.
like I didn't feel like I was allowed.
Yeah. I think your hypersensitivity picks up on other people's disdain. That's
Hmm.
triggering within themselves. It's not actually you. It's just them.
Right.
You're just a shadow mirror of like, oh, this girl's really happy over here. And then your mom or whoever else has been in life, right, is like they're getting triggered in here and they're getting angry at self because they're not able to reach those levels. But
Right. And then
you
I
are,
feel it inside.
yes, you are internalizing that. And then you were saying, like, oh, well, that must be my fault. That's a trauma
Uh-huh.
response from childhood, right? And then we shut down to keep ourselves safe and regulate ourselves. So that's where that inner child healing is going to have to come in and say, it is not my job or my responsibility to shift anyone else's mood or their emotions, including my husband and including my children.
Mm. Okay. I do feel that because sometimes I like really pick up on stuff and I've gotten to the point where I like not me, it's not mine. Like I'll sit and kind of try to consciously release it because I will grab it and roll with it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm allowed to do this. Like, they're mad at me, but they aren't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a way to keep yourself safe. It's a way to keep yourself from potential hurt.
Mhm.
Right. So that is a representative of what I mentioned before of when we're feeling these things. It's not coming from this Heidi. It's coming from younger versions of Heidi. So if
Mhm.
we can take a split second to be like, okay, inner kids, I realize that this is coming from y'all and that we feel like we have to do this because we don't feel safe right now. We don't feel safe in our body. It's not because of you, it's them not feeling safe. That you have to, if they were never able to get those stress hormones out and those emotions and that trauma and that PTSD, those inner kids within you are still holding that in their body. And so when you get triggered in
Yeah.
the here and now, it's not coming from this Heidi because you're consciously aware. You have the tools and you have the resources. You understand these concepts. And so we have to ask them what they need to feel safe and say, hey, look around at our environment right now. Okay. Like literally, like look around at your environment. Mom's not here
Mhm.
or dad's not here. Whoever hurt us in the past is not here right now. We are a
Yeah.
part of a loving family, our beautiful husband, our beautiful children. We are not living in those realities anymore. What do I need to do to help you feel safe, to help you feel validated, and to help you feel loved? We do not need to take on other people's emotions. That is not our job. That's not our responsibility. And the reason that y'all were doing that is because you were afraid of being hurt. I will not let that happen. I am the adult. This is Heidi taking on the higher self form to the inner kids and saying,
Right.
no, that's not going to happen because I'm here. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm the adult. What has been happening is a lot of people are still living in their inner child consciousness. That's where behavioral patterns and triggers are coming from. And so we have to catch them when they're trying to take over. When
Mhm.
you're having that full body reaction and latching onto people's emotions and say, oh no, it's my fault. And they're angry and it's kind of like spiraling. That's them.
Right.
So we have to stop that chain that's happening, that thought pattern, and say, I'm here.
Mhm.
What do you need? Just kind of like you would with your kids. It
Right.
is stepping up into that multidimensional form, and that's how you heal abandonment wounds. That's how you heal not feeling seen, heard, and validated, is you being that person for them. It's just acknowledgement.
Mhm.
There will be a time where you will most likely need to work through the PTSD and trauma and those memories in order to permanently release them, not the inner children. We're not releasing them. That's just the trauma around them.
Right.
But just creating a relationship where they know if they do not feel safe, that you are going to step in and say, I'm here and I love you and you're okay. Just start there. It is going to make you feel a million times better. Are you going to catch it every time? No.
Yeah.
Okay. That's okay. That's okay. But now, like when I start to go down those paths, because I have things that I'm working on too. Okay, we need to go take a breath. We need to move out of whatever situation we're in right now. We need to take a breath. And even if I can't talk to them in the second, because maybe we're at a party, like a family function, maybe we're, with kids or something,
Mhm.
I will talk to you about this later this evening. Just for a couple minutes, just like check in, like, hey, how are
Right.
you feeling earlier? Why did you get upset? What can I help you with? Do you feel safe? I love you. Just having those really brief, like 5-minute conversations is so beneficial.
Right. I could see that, like, definitely just kind of creating the safe space that I don't feel like I had. Right.
Yeah, just in a minute. It only takes a minute too for you because when the trauma and the PTSD is coming up, your body's getting activated, your central nervous system, and then the limiting beliefs start coming up, and then we start catastrophizing, then we start self-deprecating, and like it's like the snowball. If you can just for a second say, "Hey, we're safe," it stops that.
Right.
Okay, even if it's just for a second, and you will have a completely different rest of your day and experience because you stop that forward momentum train. And then you
Mhm.
can take it a step deeper and start asking them questions and to talk back to you. That's where you take it to the next level. And you start doing these really big clear outs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The reason that your higher self wanted to look at all this stuff is because part of your soul mission is to help people find their joy. There are so many people that I talk to that have no idea what brings them happiness and joy.
Right.
Okay. No idea.
Uh-huh.
And in order to help people with that, you have to figure out what that is within you so you can be a leader and example, which you're doing. You're working on that, right? So when you were talking earlier about helping people with their emotional trauma, your energy body was like, I don't want to do that.
Right.
That
It's
sounds
overwhelming.
that
Right.
sounds very intense and sad, which people need that. They need help with their emotional trauma. And you can actually still help people with it, but your perspectives need to change a little bit. And this is the example. Oh, let me fix my camera again. This is the example that I was giving earlier with the peace thing. So let's say that you have somebody that's in emotional distress and you want to help them like reach peace. Okay. So, yes, that's great. Peace is wonderful. We love that. But like past that is joy,
Mm-hmm.
like feeling elated, like expansive, like liberated, right? Just being in like this really like intense place of happiness. And so your higher self was like, if we just stop at peace, which was what you've been trying to get to, I just want to get to a place of peace. Your higher self said, well, what about joy over here? What about like magic and whimsy and all these different things?
Right.
If you are helping people with their emotional trauma with the end goal of joy, you're going to be on this Richter scale is not the right word. Hold on, let me see what she's saying. You're going to be starting out on a much higher frequency with those persons than going all the way down in the pit down there because your ultimate goal is such a higher vibration and a frequency that you're going to be helping them shift so many layers ahead because your end goal is completely different. It's not just like, hey, let's just get to a place where you feel all right. Like, no, 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 no. Let's get you to a place where you're smiling and you're laughing and you're excited. Do you see how that's different?
Right.
But your higher self is
Absolutely.
like, you need to get yourself there because all you've been doing is trying to get yourself to a place of peace.
Mm-hmm.
What about over here? What's going to bring me that exuberance feeling? Which I think you're headed towards. It sounds like you've been like, hey, let me try this, let me try this, let me try this, right? But she's like,
Yeah.
you got to extend past just peace. We want a life that's like super freaking exciting, not
Right.
just,
That would
hey,
be
it's
wonderful.
okay. I feel safe. It's okay. That's boring
Right.
AF. That's
Right.
not going to last you, right? And so even when you're looking at different activities to get into, instead of just saying, what do I think might be, what is going to really light me up?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
So what would that be? What would be that, or what would
Right.
that be for you? Like, what would like really like take money out of it, take like all that stuff. Like, what would be really exciting for you
Right.
to do?
I love horseback riding. That brings me a ton of joy. I
Yeah.
really do. Uh-huh. Um, Exploring. I love being outside, being in nature, exploring new places, going on hikes to places I've never been. Um, just the beauty of nature and new. So it's like exploring and
Yeah.
horses and a lot of outside stuff.
Good. Okay. How
Yeah.
often are you doing the exploring?
Not very much lately.
Okay.
Not very much. It's been a while, actually. Probably been a couple months since I've done any type of exploring.
Are your kids old enough where you could like leave them with dad and then go
Mm,
out for,
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah,
My
maybe,
oldest is 15, so I mean, my youngest is 5.
okay. Do they like going on exploratory
Yes, they like
adventures
to be
outside?
outside too. Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, that might be something that you could do with the kids too. If it's something that is, this is going to bring me just as much joy with the kids, or if
Hmm.
it's a headache to take all the kids, hire yourself like,
Right,
maybe we should just go plan one with ourselves, even if it's just one day a month or 2 days a month, like whenever we can
right.
fit it in. We need to do something that the kids are amplifying it. If that is
Hmm.
our exuberant joy time. Does that make sense? Because if
Yep.
not, now we're looking through their perspectives for our joy again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do you think that taking them would be amplifying that joy, or do you think that it would be detracting from that? And this is not, don't feel guilty for saying
You
like
know, I
if it
think it
is.
would I think it would be circumstantial, honestly.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think in a sense, I'm trying to find myself outside of them. So it would be something that I would need to do without it.
Yeah, and that's okay. And that's probably why your higher self wanted to like dig into that a little bit more to make sure we're not
Mhm.
feeling guilty for that, because it's okay to be your own person. Like you're a
Right,
mom, but you're also your own person,
right,
right?
right. I
Yeah,
got lost in being a mom for a long time.
sure. Yeah, that happens. So
Yeah.
she's saying like, hey, and if you want, if you, I don't want to even say end up, because you will do this, but helping people experience their joy, you will also have to help them find themselves outside of their roles,
Hmm.
outside of being a partner or a mom or a dad, or help, or in their career. Like, what is it that brings you exuberant joy outside of everything else? So deconstructing who they are wrapped up in other people, because that has been one of your biggest lessons. And our biggest lessons are what we end up helping other people with.
Right.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Now, um, one of the things that came up with your energy body when you were talking about helping people, let me see how she was wording it again, because that was a minute ago. Let's see. Okay, so she wants to help people, but she is worried in helping people that her joy will get tied up in other people again,
Hmm.
when that has been
Before
an
you
issue
even,
in the first place.
I was gonna
Okay.
say before you even said that, I was like, but she's afraid of losing her joy. Right.
Yes, and then we got the golem, like, my precious, over here again,
Right.
right? So I can empathize with that, because that has been something that I have had to work on too, because I love helping people. Love, that brings me so much joy. But then at the same time, I can get really wrapped up in thinking about people 24/7, like clients and friends and all this stuff. And then I kind of lose myself and what brings me joy, even though that does bring me joy. So I have to really make sure that I counterbalance, that I'm carving out time to do things that are just for me and that bring me that exuberant joy. Like I
Right.
have to make that a number one top priority, because of that link of like, yeah, I love bringing other people joy, but then sometimes it becomes all consuming.
Hmm. That's
So
a good
higher
point.
self is like, hey, if we want to go down this path, you got to kind of make a pact with yourself and say, like, if I'm going to bring other people joy like that, then I got to focus on my joy. Because how are we going to be a representative of something if we're not doing it ourselves?
Right. Right.
Right? Right. Even earlier, I wanted to go to the pool with my son, and he's not a really big pool person. And I was like, no, come on, come on, come on, come on. And my higher self was just like, can you just not go to the pool yourself? And
Right.
I was like, yeah, you're right.
I guess.
I don't, right. But I was also hinging like, I have more joy if he is there, but that's not actually true. Like, I can just go have joy in the pool by myself.
Right.
Yeah. Kind of like she was saying with the hikes.
Uh-huh.
Like, actually, you would probably have more fun if you just went and you had some alone time and you just had fun doing what you're doing and then filling back
Right.
up your cup and then go out and take the kids and hike somewhere. Yes. Okay. So, what questions about any of the things that we talked about here?
Um, gosh, I'm not sure to tell you the truth. Um, I mean, I guess next step is just to really kind of focus on the inner child healing, acknowledgement uh, with my inner children. So, I mean, like that was the question I had, I think, going into that is like, what is my next step and like moving forward
Hmm.
towards purpose? But I think that covers that. Did hmm, yeah, I don't know. Nothing's coming to me right at the moment.
Your higher self was saying something. Let me see what she's saying. Okay. So there's a lot of trauma coaches. There's a lot of PTSD coaches. There's a lot of inner child coaches. We love that. That's wonderful. That might not be what you want to do in this incarnation. You might want to be a joy coach.
Okay. Enjoy.
That is 100% valid as well, and is really fun, right? I I love helping people with inner child healing. I love helping people figure out connectivity and why things are correlated and why they're experiencing these behavioral patterns and triggers. That brings me joy. Okay. That does not sound like it's going to bring you joy.
No, I get too wrapped up in stuff. It feels too deep, like it hurts.
Mhm. And she's saying you don't have to do that. You have to give your permission. You have to give yourself permission that that's not for you then. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you want to do something.
Right.
Like there's a lot of things I can help with that does not make me happy, so I don't do them, right? So she's saying don't invalidate the beautiful gift of helping people step into their joy. That also means that you would be working with people who are a little more advanced in their journey and already have a lot of tools and resources because they're closer to that frequency of, I have done the work. Now I need to rediscover who I am.
Right.
But they've already cleared out a lot of that stuff. They've cleared out the muck, okay, in the foggy lenses. And so they're ready for somebody just to help them through that next chapter. Your higher self is kind of showing me future on your soul contract. This is not going to happen. This is just a propensity if we stay where we're going right now, okay? Of, oh, well, no, I have to help people with all of this other heavy work in order to get them there. And she said, no, you don't. You could just pull in people that are closer to that experience of ready to jump on over into their joy and their passions and their creativity. So you could really just be like a joy, passion, creativity, energy healer, coach, public speaker, whatever you want to do. You don't have to start down in the pit with people.
He said public speaker and I wanted to choke.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, public speaking can come later too. Some people are better working with people one-on-one or in group settings. And then once you get a good, strong, solid foundation within that, you learn how to speak in those circumstances.
Right.
Then you can move forward into more expansive like avenues. Like I started with individual sessions and then I started doing groups and then I started doing bigger things, right? But it took time because I also had fears of being seen and fears of success and failure and all those different things. So she's not saying you have to do that tomorrow.
Oh, good.
Really, honestly, the next steps here would be how can I find my joy, right? And really not be in that like Gollum, like I have to like keep this over here, right? Making
Like separate it.
Yeah, not making a compact or contract with yourself and saying like, hey, I do want to help people experience their joy, but I'm going to make us number one type priority. Like if we do decide to go that route, I will ensure that you are taken care of. You, your energy body, and your inner children, that we won't get lost in the sauce like we did previously. Okay, with other people. And then helping your inner children feel safe and seen and heard and validated when you are having those fears of being seen or being perceived or taking steps toward your goals. And your higher self said, if you just work on that for this next chapter, the things will start coming in. The intuitive nudges and the downloads, but it's going to take that active work on your parts, which is not even really work. It's just like helping them feel safe and having more fun is really like what she's saying. So it's nothing like wild shadow work. But oftentimes we're overthinking the steps. And like, okay, well, I have to have a business and I have to do this and I have to do that. And she's like, I just need you to work on these two things right now.
Right.
And then I will help you get the rest of the way. Okay, just this stuff right now, and then we'll get there. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Which I can embody the play and talk to myself.
Yeah. Just what is my joy outside of other people's perspectives and outside of helping other people? Because then and she wanted me to say too, before we finish up, when your cup is full like that, you're going to be resonating on a higher frequency of consciousness, and you're going to have a higher self-concept, and you're going to have higher confidence. And so the ideas and the insights and the downloads that come in are more in resonance with the Heidi who has a spiritual business, who is helping people with their joy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yes.
It does. Um, in kind of relation to that, and just I guess in general, like I feel like sometimes I could be like in that really good state,
Mhm.
and then people around me aren't, and I automatically bounce to that. What is something that I can do to hold the higher frequency and the place of peace and joy within
Yes.
myself and not pick up on the lower frequency, or and to internalize their frequency and kind of go down?
That's where coming in with the inner children in that moment of removing, sometimes you just need to remove yourself from the situation just for a second, like go to the bathroom or
Uh-huh.
go step outside for a second and just like, hey, I need some air,
Sure.
and say, it is not our responsibility to hold to other people's emotions and their feelings and their thoughts. It's not our job
Mhm.
to regulate that. We can be happy even if they're not, because that has nothing to do with us. You're safe. They are not mom and dad. Then we can go back in the situation with more of a clear mind and more of a strong foundation within. And then later on in the day, we need to have a conversation with them of, why did you feel that pull to do that?
Mhm.
That's it.
Okay. Because I definitely do internalize like other people's stuff. Like I'll feel so great, and then somebody says something or comes in with a different mood, and I'm like,
It's your inner children that are saying, time to keep ourselves safe,
okay.
or either feeling guilty for feeling joyful, right? But that's
Mhm.
also a safety response. So we have to
Right.
stop. We have to stop what your body is doing, because what your body is doing is saying, okay, I have memories tied up with PTSD and central nervous system and unprocessed emotions. So when I get any type of inclination that somebody around me is upset, I need to internalize that so I can transmute and alchemize it so they're okay. Okay.
Right.
Right. Okay. So anytime somebody around you is disgruntled, even if it's not with you, disgruntled, upset, if they're in a bad mood, it's like, okay, here we go. This is what happened in childhood. What can I do? How can I take on the savior here? Right.
Right.
You have to stop your body's reaction to that. It's just a physiology. It's just physiology that's happening.
Right.
It's just your body having memory of trauma. So
Mhm.
you have to stop that by saying, hey, we're safe and I love you. They're not mom and dad. I've got you. It's not our responsibility. If you just say those things over yourself, it
Mhm.
tells your body to relax. It takes you out of survival mode because you're going
Got it.
straight into survival mode.
Right. I mean, for the longest time, I couldn't even go to like a public place without just
Yeah.
feeling so overwhelmed because I was taking in so many different feelings and things around me.
Yeah.
That
It's,
I've
it's
been
just your
able to
body's memory.
separate from, but it's like the more personal relationship type stuff now where it's so heavy, but that makes sense.
Yeah. It's just your body remembering the pain of the past and trying to keep you safe. But
Hmm.
you have to, you are in charge of your energy body and your experience, and not in an authoritative way, not in a domineering way, but we have to come in as a multidimensional form, the higher self, and say, hey, I see what's happening here. I understand that this is coming from childhood, and I have a choice to not respond in that same way, but I know that I need to tell them, hey, you're so safe. You're not mom and dad. It's not our responsibility to make them feel better. It's not our
Hmm.
responsibility to mitigate their thoughts and emotions. They're their own person. It's a little bit different when it's your kids,
Right.
because you're teaching them how to like emotionally regulate and things like that. But even with like, let's say your 15-year-old who's older, I mean, they're still a child, but they're, getting up there, or your husband, we don't need to regulate the same way you would with a 5-year-old.
Right.
Like you're probably absorbing too much from them. Like that's a good, like, it's not my job to do that. Because if you do that for them, they're not going to be able to emotionally regulate themselves
Right. I see that.
because mom always did that for them.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, what can I do to help you feel better? What's going on? You know, like all this stuff.
Right.
Right. They need to figure out
It's
those
that
processes.
hyperfixating on the things that I didn't have,
Mhm.
right? Making
Yeah.
things comfortable.
So then you overcompensate and you overdo it with them, right? So that's where we have to remove ourselves from the situation for just a second and recenter ourselves and recenter our central nervous system and say, like,
Mhm.
I don't need to go into survival mode right now. We're safe. We're fine. We're in our
Right.
house. We're with our kids, we're with our husband. Everything is okay. And just recenter for just a second. Sometimes that means you gotta go to the bathroom for a second. Sometimes that means you need to go in your room.
Sure.
I do that with my son sometimes. He triggers me and it brings up stuff from childhood. And I just go in my room and say, hey, I'm gonna go in my room for just a second.
Mhm.
And then I go talk to my inner kids for a second. I'm like, hey, this is not my grandpa. This is not my grandma that raised me because I had a lot of that same stuff. Notice that we're okay. We're safe. I love you. We can talk about this later if you need, but we don't need to go into survival mode right now.
Right.
And the more you do that, the easier it gets. And your body starts to release that adrenaline and the stress hormones and the PTSD and the trauma. It starts to naturally release those things because it doesn't need to hold on to anymore. It thinks it does right now because you have inner children inside that have not been healed yet.
Right.
But you doing this process teaches your body, oh, we're not that Heidi anymore. We don't need those processes. So just catching it when you can. It sounds very
Right.
simple overall with your higher self is just like, just have more joy and help your inner children feel safe. But like sometimes simple is the answer.
Right. I'm
Like
like, yeah,
sometimes
just a
that's
little
literally,
more.
sometimes that's literally, she's not even saying, hey, you need to look through all that trauma with your inner children. She's just like, hey, can we just get ourselves out of survival mode?
Right.
That's it. Sometimes like when I'm meeting people for inner child healing and we are actually talking about like healing things and they're like, oh, I thought that was going to be a lot more intense than it is. I was like, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just helping your own children feel safe. And
Mhm.
that's literally all they need. All they need is for you to say, I love you, I see you, I hear you, I validate you, because it's not what you got when you're in your child, and you don't actually have to talk about trauma
Mhm.
because you already lived through it once. Like sometimes that's not needed. Now, some things are. Some things are depending on what those lessons are, but that's not what your higher self is saying to you right now.
Okay.
Okay. So that's
Thank
also
you.
indicative of you thinking that you have a lot more work than you need to do right now. And your higher self is like, actually, you don't.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I guess in reality, I've gone through quite a bit already, but yeah, I guess acknowledging that, like giving myself the good job.
Absolutely. And
Sometimes
we need to
isn't
be giving the
easy.
kids, you need to be giving those kids a pat on the back too, of like, hey, we've done a lot of work and now we can go experience like fun and joy and like we've gotten ourselves to a good place in life. Yes, there will be times where we need to talk about shadow work and trauma and PTSD in the future because it's a cycle.
Mhm.
Okay. We go through these cycles, but right now we're fine. Okay, let's go have some fun. And how can I help y'all feel safer and acknowledged and seen? And getting excited about your future, Heidi. Like, what if you do become this wildly successful joy coach who is just literally helping people with their creativity and passions and joy, and you're getting paid for that, and people are embracing you and loving you and complimenting you, and you're changing their lives, and you don't have to talk about all this heavy trauma stuff? Like,
Right.
how magical does that sound? And you being able to travel with the kids and make your own schedule and do all these things. Like we need to be pumping more positivity into that timeline so that your body feels more excited about it. Because your body right now is just scary, scary, danger, danger.
Mhm.
Okay. But it's like, let's feed more positivity into the timeline. Like, what could this look like? How could I feel? What are the opportunities that would be available for me in this timeline? And be thinking about that more than letting the inner children say, I'm scared of being seen. Yes, that's valid.
Mhm.
But what are the positive what ifs at the same time? Let's counterbalance that a little bit more.
Right.
What might also be really good for you is to find some joy coaches or creativity coaches to look up to
Okay.
as mentors. Like when I first started getting into the work I do now, I went and found some coaches, mentors, and guides who were doing what I wanted to do, and I would listen to their content because it helped me become the person I am today. It was like, oh, these people did it.
Okay.
I can do it too.
Right. I mean, I guess I've never even heard of a joy coach.
Mm-hmm. Joy coach, creativity coach, happiness coach. They're out there.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Find you some to listen to.
I will. I'll look it
Okay.
up later. That sounds kind of fun.
Yes. Yes. And they will
Right.
be talking about fun things.
Right.
Like not the trauma and the PTSD and stuff. And I'm not saying you won't ever have to talk to things about that with people. Obviously you will, but it will be like different from what I do. It'll be more on like a lighthearted scale because they've already done like a lot of the work. I'm kind of the middle person that are helping people like get to you because that brings me joy.
Okay.
Okay. What was your biggest takeaway today?
My biggest takeaway today, I guess it doesn't have to be as complicated as you make it.
Mm-hmm. Begin in our own way.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the
Get
crux
out
of
of
being
your
like
way, girl.
yeah.
Right.
That's the crux of being like a very self-aware person because you're like, let me fine tooth with a comb like through all this stuff.
Right.
Right.
Hold on.
Yes.
Wait, it's right in front of you.
Exactly. Okay. I'm going to send you pictures of your oracle cards and your crystal grid, and then I'll get the replay to you. And then if you need anything else in the future, let me know.
All right. Thank you. It was
Oh,
awesome
you're
talking
welcome.
with you
Yeah,
today.
you too.
All right.
Okay.